There is someone out there who almost stopped believing that you existed. Not in a loud way. Not with a dramatic announcement or a final speech. It happened quietly, the way most surrenders happen. It happened on an ordinary evening, in an ordinary room, with the lights low and the phone face down on the table. They sat there with their hands folded, and something inside them finally went still. And in that stillness, they whispered the sentence they had been avoiding for years. Maybe this is just how my life is going to be. Maybe love is something that happens to other people. Maybe I have been praying into an empty sky. My beloved child, listen carefully, because what I am about to tell you is not a fairy tale and it is not a fantasy. That night was real. That prayer was real. And what happened next is the reason you are watching this video right now. Because they did not know that God was already awake. They did not know that heaven does not sleep through the sound of a breaking heart. While they were counting all the reasons to give up, something was already moving. Not loudly. Not with thunder or lightning or a voice from the clouds. God rarely announces his arrival to people who are too tired to look up. Instead, he does something smaller and far more powerful. He interrupts. He delays a decision by one day. He puts a strange thought in a mind that had already settled. He causes a person to pause with their finger over a button, and then take their hand away. That night, when your person was ready to close the door on hope forever, God stepped in and held the door open with one finger. Just one. Just enough. Do not scroll away. I know how many videos you have watched. I know how many times you have been told that your breakthrough is coming, and then nothing changed, and you felt foolish for hoping again. I am not here to sell you a feeling that will wear off before morning. I am here because there is something you need to understand about the years you have spent waiting, and I do not think anyone has ever explained it to you properly. Stay with me, because the middle of this message is where everything turns, and if you leave now you will miss the part that was meant for you specifically. Here is the first hard truth. You almost gave up too. Do not pretend otherwise. You have your own version of that quiet evening. You have your own moment when you looked at your life and did the math and decided that the numbers do not work anymore. Maybe it was after the last conversation that ended badly. Maybe it was at a wedding, when you smiled for someone else and then cried in your car in the parking lot. Maybe it was on a birthday, when the candles felt less like a celebration and more like a countdown. Maybe it was in the middle of a Tuesday for no reason at all, when the loneliness came and sat down beside you like an old friend who never leaves. You have been strong for so long that people have stopped asking if you are okay. And somewhere along the way, you started praying smaller prayers, because the big ones hurt too much when they went unanswered. But I want you to hear something that might sound impossible right now. The delay in your life was never a denial. It was never God saying no. It was never God forgetting your name or losing your file or handing your blessing to someone who prayed louder. Listen carefully, because this is where most people misunderstand their own story. There is a difference between a door that is locked and a door that is simply not open yet. And there is a difference between being rejected and being protected. Some of the greatest mercies of your life came disguised as disappointments, and you have not yet been given the full picture of what you were saved from. Think about the door that closed 2 years ago. Think about the one you begged God to keep open. You cried over that door. You bargained over that door. You made promises you had no business making, just to keep something that was never built to last. And when it finally shut, you felt like you had been robbed. But you were not robbed. You were rescued. If that door had stayed open, you would not be the person you are today. You would have poured the best years of your life into a foundation made of sand, and you would have spent the rest of your days wondering why nothing you built would stand. God loved you too much to let you build on sand. Even when it broke your heart. Even when it made you angry at Him. Even when you accused Him of being silent, He was busy saving your future from your own longing. And the people who left. My beloved child, I know that some of those goodbyes still live in your body. There are names you cannot say out loud without your voice changing. There are songs you have to skip. There are streets you drive around instead of through. You have carried those exits like personal failures, as if their leaving proved something about your worth. But hear me. Some people were never meant to stay. Some people were chapters, not books. Some people were assignments that ended when the lesson was learned. And a few of them, the hardest ones, were the storms that shook the tree so that the dead branches would finally fall. You are lighter now than you were then, even if it does not feel like it. You are freer now, even if freedom still feels like loneliness some nights. Now here is what I promised you. Here is the part that changes everything, and I need you to stay with me because it is easy to miss. While you were waiting, you were not standing still. You were being built. Everything you went through in the last several years was not random suffering. It was construction. And I can prove it to you with your own memory. Think about who you were 5 years ago. Think about what you tolerated. Think about the things you called love that were really just fear of being alone. Think about how quickly you used to abandon yourself to keep someone else comfortable. You would not do that now. You know you would not. Something in you has changed, and that change did not come from a book or a podcast or a good week. It came from the fire. You learned to say no. That sounds small, but it is one of the most important things a person can learn. You learn to pay your own bills and fix your own problems and comfort yourself at 2 in the morning when there was nobody to call. Those were not wasted years. Those were the years God spent making you unbreakable. Because the love He is preparing for you is not the kind that can be handed to someone who is still hiding. It has to be given to someone who can receive it without shrinking, and without running, and without secretly waiting for it to be taken away. But there is something else. Something deeper. And this is where I need you to be honest with yourself for a moment. There was a wound in you that no relationship could have healed. Do you know the one I am talking about? It is the old one. The one that started long before your first heartbreak. Maybe it came from a parent who was there in body but absent in every way that mattered. Maybe it came from being the child who was always compared and always came up short. Maybe it came from a moment of humiliation you have never told a single living soul about. That wound had a voice, and its voice said one sentence over and over for years. You are too much and you are not enough at the same time. If God had sent your person into your life while that wound was still open, you would have handed them a job they were never qualified to do. You would have asked a human being to heal something only God can reach. And they would have failed. Not because they were bad. Not because they did not love you. But because no person on this earth was designed to be someone else's savior. You would have loved them with a fist instead of an open hand. You would have tested them, and doubted them, and pushed them away just to see if they would come back, and one day they would not have come back. And you would have called it another betrayal, when it was really the collapse of a house built too soon. Do you see it now? Do you see why the timing mattered so much? And here is the part that will break your heart in the best possible way. The same work was happening on the other side. Stay with me. While you were sitting in your own fire, learning your own lessons, they were in a fire of their own. They had a wound too. They had a season where everything they trusted came apart in their hands. They had nights where the ceiling was the only thing they had to talk to. They had their own list of people who left and their own collection of closed doors. And they, like you, wondered if God had simply stopped answering. Two people, in two different places, going through two separate refinements, for one shared purpose that neither one could see. That is what God does that no human being can do. He works on two hearts at the same time, in two different cities, across two different timelines, and He aligns them down to the day. He does not just prepare a person for you. He prepares you for a person. And He will not rush that work, because a rushed work does not last. My beloved child, this is why your prayers felt unanswered. They were not unanswered. They were being answered slowly, in two places at once, in ways you could not see from where you were standing. You were asking for a harvest in the middle of the planting season, and God, in His mercy, refused to hand you fruit that was not ripe. Now, before I go further, there is one more thing that has to happen first, and this is the part almost nobody talks about. There is something you may still be holding that could delay what God is doing. I am not saying this to frighten you. I am saying it because I care about you too much to leave it out. Listen carefully. You cannot walk into a new season carrying the full weight of the old one. You cannot build something beautiful with hands that are still clenched around a grudge. And there is a name in your mind right now. It appeared the moment I said the word. You know exactly who I am talking about. Forgiveness is not saying that what happened was acceptable. Let me be very clear about that, because too many people have been spiritually manipulated with that lie. Forgiveness does not mean the wound was not real. It does not mean you have to answer their calls or let them back into your life or pretend the damage never happened. Forgiveness is simply the decision to stop carrying the sentence for a crime you did not commit. Every day you hold on to that anger, you are paying rent on a house you do not even live in anymore. They moved on. They are sleeping fine. And you are the one lying awake, rehearsing the argument you will never get to have. Let it go, not because they deserve it, but because your hands are needed for something else now. And while we are being honest, let me say the harder thing. Do not go back. I know the nights get long. I know that when you are lonely, the past starts to look prettier than it actually was. Memory is a gentle liar. It will show you the good weekend and hide the bad month. It will replay the apology and mute the pattern that came after it. If God took something out of your life, do not spend your strength trying to resurrect it. There is nothing more exhausting than trying to breathe life into something heaven has already declared finished. That door did not close by accident, and if you break it open again, you will not find what you left there. You will only find the same lesson, waiting with a higher price tag. And please, do not settle. This is the quiet danger of a long wait. When you have been hungry long enough, anything starts to look like food. You start telling yourself that some attention is better than none, that a little bit of love is better than an empty house, that maybe your standards were too high all along. My beloved child, your standards were not too high. Your patience was just running low. There is a difference. Do not trade a lifetime of peace for a season of company. Do not hand your one and only heart to someone just because they arrived at a moment when you were tired. Some of the worst decisions in human history were made by good people who were simply exhausted. So let us talk about divine timing, because this is where faith becomes practical. God's clock does not run on your anxiety. It does not speed up because you cried harder, and it does not slow down because you doubted. It runs on readiness. Think about a farmer. He does not shout at the field and march demanding a harvest. He knows there is a process happening underground that has nothing to do with his impatience. And when the season turns, everything he waited for arrives at once, and it arrives in abundance, and nobody remembers how long the winter was. That is how your life works too. The waiting feels endless right up until the moment it ends, and then it feels like it happened overnight. Now here is something I want you to watch for, and I want you to pay very close attention, because these are the signs that a season is shifting. The first sign is peace where there used to be panic. You will notice that you can think about your situation without your chest tightening. The second sign is that the old things stop tempting you. The person who used to have power over your emotions will text, and you will read it, and feel almost nothing, and put your phone down and go back to your day. That is not coldness. That is healing. The third sign is that your prayers change. You stop begging and start thanking. You stop asking God to fix your loneliness and start asking Him what He wants to do with your life. That shift right there is one of the most important spiritual milestones a human being can reach. And here is the fourth sign, and it is the strangest one. You will start to feel a quiet contentment that almost worries you. You will look around at your life, your small apartment or your quiet house, your routines, your morning coffee, your work, your friends, and you will think, I could actually be okay like this. And you will feel guilty for thinking it, as if being at peace means you have given up on your desire. But it does not mean that at all. It means you have finally stopped needing another person to complete a picture that God already called good. And I will tell you a mystery. That is very often the moment when things begin to move. Not because contentment is a magic trick that summons blessings, but because a person at peace can finally recognize the right thing when it walks in. Because here is what nobody warns you about. The right person very rarely arrives with fireworks. If you spend your whole life waiting for lightning, you will walk right past the thing you prayed for. Real love, the kind that lasts 50 years, usually shows up looking ordinary. It feels like being able to breathe. It feels like your shoulders coming down from around your ears. It feels safe, and safe is a feeling many of us were trained to mistake for boring, because chaos was the only thing we ever knew. Listen carefully to this, because it may save you years. If it feels like an emergency, it is not love. It is a familiar wound wearing a new face. Peace is not the absence of passion. Peace is the proof that you are finally standing on solid ground. So what do you do now, while you are still in the middle of the story? You become. That is the answer. You become the person you have been praying for. Because it would be a strange thing to ask God for someone loyal, kind, patient, and grounded, and to hand that person a version of yourself that you have not bothered to work on. That is not a judgment. That is an invitation. Take care of your body, not because you need to be beautiful for anyone, but because the vessel carrying your purpose deserves respect. Get your finances in order, even in small steps, because peace at home is built on more than feelings. Deal with the anger you have been calling a personality trait. Go to counseling if you need to. There is no shame in getting help repairing something that was broken by someone else's hands. And build a life worth joining. This is the part one wish someone had told me sooner. Do not put your entire existence on pause waiting for another human being to arrive and press play. Do not leave the walls bare because you are waiting to decorate with someone. Do not skip the trip because you would rather go with a partner. Do not stop cooking real meals because it feels silly to cook for one. Fill your calendar with things that make you feel alive. Join the group. Take the class. Serve somewhere. Volunteer where you are needed. The right person is not looking for an empty room to move into. They are looking for a life that feels like home, and homes are built by people who kept building even when nobody was watching. And in the meantime, do not despise the lonely season. I know that is a hard thing to hear on a night when the house is too quiet. But some of the most important work of your life is happening right now, in a room nobody sees, with no witnesses and no applause. This is the season where your character is formed. This is where you learn to trust God without evidence, which is the only kind of trust that actually counts. Anyone can have faith when the answer has already arrived. It takes something rare to keep believing in the middle, with the phone silent and the calendar empty and the years going by. If you are still holding on tonight, you have more strength than you have ever given yourself credit for. Now, I want to be completely honest with you, because you deserve honesty more than you deserve flattery. I cannot tell you a date. I cannot tell you a name. Anyone who tells you they know the exact day your prayer will be answered is selling you something, and you should be careful with them. I do not know what your next chapter will look like, and I will not pretend to. What I can tell you is what has been true in every generation for thousands of years. God is close to the broken-hearted. He keeps track of your tears. He does not waste pain. He is not annoyed by your questions. And he has never once abandoned a person who was still reaching for him, even weakly, even angrily, even in the dark. And there is something even bigger here, something larger than romance, and I do not want you to miss it. Your life was never meant to be a waiting room for a wedding. You have a purpose that exists whether or not that person ever knocks on your door. There are people who will be helped by what you survived. There is work with your name on it. There is a version of you that God is trying to release into the world, and that version does not need permission from anybody. Do not let the longing for one blessing blind you to the 50 that are already sitting in your hands. Gratitude is not a denial of your pain. It is the doorway out of it. But yes, my beloved child, I do believe in restoration. I believe in it because I have watched it happen too many times to call it a coincidence. I have seen people who swore they would never trust again learn to fall asleep beside someone without keeping one eye open. I have seen people who thought their best years were behind them find out that the best chapter had not even been written yet. I have seen God take a life that looked like a pile of broken pieces and turn it into something so beautiful that the people who left could not even recognize it. Restoration is not God giving you back what you lost. Restoration is God giving you something better than what you were even asking for. And when it happens, I think it will surprise you. It will probably not happen on a night when you got dressed up and went out hoping. It will more likely happen on a random afternoon when you are wearing something you would be embarrassed to be seen in. It will happen in a line, or a parking lot, or a room you almost did not walk into. It will happen when you have stopped auditioning people and started simply living. And later, much later, you will look back on this exact season, this exact stretch of loneliness, and you will finally understand why the timing had to be this way. You will see that if any of it had happened sooner, it would not have lasted. And you will be so grateful for the delay that you will barely recognize the person who used to cry about it. So do not quit. Not now. Not this close. Listen carefully, because this is the heart of everything I have said tonight. The person who almost gave up on you did not give up. Something held them. Something whispered to them. Something gave them one more reason to stay open one more day. And the same grace that reached them in their darkest hour is reaching for you right now, through a screen, at whatever hour it is where you are. That is not a coincidence. You did not find this message by accident. Something in you is still alive, still hoping, still refusing to close the door completely. Protect that. It is the most valuable thing you own. Let us pray together for a moment. Father, thank you for the one listening to these words right now. You know the nights they have not told anyone about. You know the prayers they gave up on praying. Heal the places that never got a chance to close. Take the weight off their shoulders that was never theirs to carry. Give them peace where there has been panic, and clarity where there has been confusion. Protect them from what looks right but is not, and prepare them for what is truly good. Let them feel your presence tonight in a way that is unmistakable. And Father, in your perfect timing, and by your perfect wisdom, restore what was lost and bring what was promised. We trust you with the schedule. We trust you with the details. We trust you with the outcome. In Jesus' name, Amen. Now hear me one last time. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not too late, and you are not too much, and you have never been too little. You are in the final stretch of a long preparation, and the God who started this work in you has never once left a project unfinished. Keep your heart soft. Keep your standards high. Keep your hands open. And keep going, even on the days when going means nothing more than getting out of bed and trying again. If this message reached something in you tonight, do not let it end here. Tap that like button, because it genuinely helps this channel reach the next person who is sitting alone tonight thinking nobody understands. Leave a comment below and tell me one word that describes what you are believing for right now. Just one word. I read them, and there is real power in a room full of people praying for each other. Share this with someone you love, especially the one who has been quiet lately, because that quiet person may be exactly the one who was about to give up. And if you are not subscribed yet, subscribe now and turn on the notification bell, so the next message finds you on the night you need it most. Thank you for staying with me. Thank you for not scrolling away. Something good is coming for you. Keep believing until it does.